my photography mentor, I have a friend named John that taught me photography, and he was an old-time photographer, has shot medium format for about 35 years, lots of model work, lots of commercial work. And when he took me under his wing, he told me two things. He said, number one, when I start teaching you how to shoot, number one I want you to do, and we were shooting mostly landscapes and things at that point, is he said, you're going to use a tripod for 3 months. You will never snap that shutter without your camera being on the tripod. One thing it does, not only did it make my pictures all of a sudden not shaky, because I'm a naturally, you can tell, I like to talk and I like to move. My pictures are shaky. All of a sudden the shake went away. But most importantly, when your camera's on the tripod, you have to think now. Because you can't just pull it up here and, oh, yep, there you go, click, 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 click. Nope, when I put that camera on the tripod, I have to now frame it up. I've got to move it around. Now all of a sudden my camera's in position. I can look for things that are wrong. I think about what I'm doing. Well, one of the things that he had told me is he goes, you know what? You have to shoot about 10,000 images. And that was in the days of film. So you got to shoot about 10,000 images before you even start understanding what that camera does or about photography. Well, you know what? Fast forward to now, it's the digital age. That's more like 50,000 or 100,000 photos because, you know, in the old days we used to put a roll of 24 or 36 exposures and go out for the day. And when you get out there, you're all excited because it's this great location. You click, 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 and you go, uh-oh, I used 10 frames. I only got 12 left or, 14 left. I better slow down. Well, now with digital, what do we do? Ooh, that's great. Click, 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 click. Click, 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 click. I'll go home from a 2-hour shoot and I'll go, wow, I took 600 photos. So, rather quickly, you equate 600 photos to what it would have cost to develop those, 10 years ago. So my mantra that I learned from him is shoot everything. You know what? A lot of us, most of us in here today would consider ourselves portrait photographers. But guess what? If you don't have a person to shoot, find an animal. Grab your dog, your cat. Go to the local zoo, whatever it is. You know what? You don't have an animal? Go shoot flowers. You don't have flowers to shoot? Shoot a local landmark. We live next to one of the most unique bridges in the world, the Sundial Bridge. At least once or twice a month, I'll find my way down to the Sundial Bridge. And you know what? It's probably the most photographed landmark in California these days. However, every time I go, my brain's going, how do I photograph this differently than I've seen everybody else do it? What did that do? By shooting everything, I start learning to see things a little more creatively. Picasso was once asked, why'd you paint that picture with all the blue? Well, his answer was, well, if I don't have red, I use blue. I use what I have. That was basically what he's saying. So again, if you don't have a person to shoot, always shoot. Don't go, well, gosh, if I could just find somebody to shoot, then I would become a good portrait photographer. You know what? The same concepts of shooting people work with animals. It works with bridges. It works with mountains. There's a book out that talks about the landscape of the face and how it equates landscape photography with portrait photography. So people have asked me, so what does it take to be a professional photographer? But you notice I didn't write, what does it take to be a professional photographer? What does it take to be a good photographer? Because that word doesn't mean anything today. I'll bet you if I ask for a show of hands, I think there's 35, 36 of you in here. Who in here is a professional photographer? I'd probably see a lot of hands go up. And then if I said, of you that raised your hand, how many of you have another job? And guess what? And how many of you aren't a professional photographer? And another half of you, hands would go up. And I'll bet if we looked at your portfolio, our tongues would hang out and we'd go, oh, they are incredible. I know amateur photographers that shoot better than I probably ever will. The whole idea of amateur is someone who does it for the love of it. So you can be a professional and not love it. It can come to a point where it's just going through the motions. When you run a commercial or a portrait studio where you have a storefront, you may have to shoot 20, 30 portraits every day to pay the rent. And boy, do you think shooting 20, 30 portrait sessions a day, after a year or 2 or 3 years, you're going to say, I do this because I love it. You're going, oh, I can do this in my sleep. So, you know what? Those terms mean nothing anymore. Yeah, call yourself a professional, call yourself an amateur, but you know what? The important thing is, are you a good photographer? So, with that in mind, what do I need to understand to be a good photographer?